Sam Neill had a film career any actor would be proud of. If you haven't seen these career highlights, you'd be doing yourself a favor to check them all out in tribute. Okay, you've probably seen this one. It's a role that made Neill a household name and forever associated him with the role of paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant. But if you've somehow never seen Steven Spielberg's 1993 masterpiece Jurassic Park, get on it. The film revolutionized visual effects, and frankly, they're still pretty astonishing more than 30 years later. They eclipse even the latter films in the Jurassic franchise, but it's the human characters who are the heart of the story. Their mix of awe and fear of the cloned dinosaurs at the title attraction really sell the premise. We'll never forget Grant's reaction to seeing living, breathing dinos for the first time.
It's a dinosaur.
Jurassic Park topped the domestic box office for 1993, raking in over $338 million. It was also a critical darling and Oscar favorite, winning prizes for its visual effects, sound mixing, and sound effects editing. When the movie was re-released in 3D in 2013, Variety mused that the movie had only gained charm over the past 2 decades. 1993 was a huge year for Neill. While he backed theaters that summer with Jurassic Park, he was also getting massive prestige film cred for his role in The Piano. The awards mostly went to his co-stars Holly Hunter and Anna Paquin, as well as director Jane Campion, but Neill is essential to the film's haunting, mesmerizing impact. Neill plays Alasdair Stewart, a frontiersman who brings his new wife Ada and her daughter Flora to travel from Scotland to his home in the woods of New Zealand. Ada only communicates through her piano and feels no romantic warmth towards Alasdair. In retaliation, he sells the instrument to a farmer who has taken up many customs of the local Maori tribes. The farmer agrees to sell it back to Ada one key at a time in exchange for an affair. When the two fall in love, it sends Alasdair into a tailspin of jealousy. Roger Ebert called the movie as peculiar and haunting as any film I've seen. He praised the performances, writing that Neill has a universe of fear and sadness behind his clouded eyes. The movie became the highest grossing ever at the time in New Zealand, where it was shot and which Neill called home for most of his life. Neill was doing excellent work well before his 1993 breakout. Unfortunately, one of his most captivating performances was largely ignored when it hit screens in 1981. That's despite co-star Isabelle Adjani winning the Best Actress prize at Cannes for Andrzej Zulawski's Possession. The film was actually banned in the UK, and the US release was heavily edited down from 124 minutes to just 81. Yet it has gained a massive cult following since then, thanks to a new restoration. Neill plays Mark, a spy who returns home to find his wife Anna is having an affair and wants a divorce. After taking a beating from his wife's lover, Mark hires a private detective to follow her around. But as Anna's behavior becomes increasingly violent and bizarre, it becomes clear something more sinister has taken hold of her.
You've hardened. For the first time, you look vulgar to me.
Response was decidedly mixed upon its original release, but contemporary critical and audience assessment has only grown stronger. The Chicago Reader flat out declared it a masterpiece, while RogerEbert.com said the film remains one of the most grueling, powerful, and overwhelmingly intense cinematic experiences that you are likely to have in your lifetime. Another Neill outing that wasn't met with the warmest reception when it was released in 1995, John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness has been reappraised as one of Carpenter's best. That's thanks in large part to Neill's frighteningly committed performance. Taking its inspiration from the works of H.P. Lovecraft, the film stars Neill as John Trent, an insurance investigator hired to track down horror novelist Sutter Kane.
Do you read Sutter Kane?
What?
Kane's work is hugely popular and seems to drive everyone who reads it insane. Trent and editor Linda Stiles tracked the writer down to a small New England town, which closely resembles the supernatural world of Kane's novels. Before long, Trent and Stiles are driven into the author's psyche-shattering mindscape. The Chicago Reader was among the film's initial defenders, calling it Carpenter's scariest outing. The Austin Chronicle praised Neill's performance, Carpenter's sense of mood, his smart use of the widescreen format, not to mention all the mutations, special effects, and the hilariously self-reflexive finale. If you've never heard of 1988's A Cry in the Dark, you've at least heard a parody of it if you're a Seinfeld fan.
Maybe the dingo ate your baby.
Yes, a dingo seemingly eats Meryl Streep's baby in this one. And that may sound ridiculous, but Streep and Neill both earned praise for their performances in this courtroom docudrama. It tells the true story of Lindy and Michael Chamberlain, an Australian couple whose infant daughter disappears while they're on vacation in the outback. Lindy swears to have witnessed a dingo carrying their baby off in the night, yet her icy demeanor and a mountain of circumstantial evidence cause people to suspect she actually killed her own child. Prejudice against the couple's religious beliefs and media sensationalism only fuel public speculation. Critics praised the film, which brought Streep one of her many Oscar nominations. Although it reminded him in some ways of a TV movie of the week, Vincent Canby of the New York Times thought A Cry in the Dark was a step up, largely thanks to Streep and Neill's performances. Rita Kempley of the Washington Post agreed, writing that Neill was quite good as a humble, bewildered sort who finally breaks under cross-examination. Neill never really slowed down, racking up credits right up until the end. One of his most notable late career roles was in a 2016 comedy made in New Zealand by then up-and-coming director Taika Waititi. Hunt for the Wilderpeople centers on young Ricky Baker, an abandoned juvenile delinquent who's taken in by his foster parents, Neill's Hector and Bella. When Bella dies, Ricky fakes his own death and makes a run for the woods. Hector tracks him down, but he breaks his ankle, stranding them in the wilderness. The police conclude Hector has abducted Ricky, and the odd couple must work together to avoid capture.
Uncle, you're basically a criminal now, but on the bright side, you're famous.
The film earned near universal praise from critics, who loved its tonal balance and performances. Variety called it a pleasing comedy adventure and praised Neill's casting. Time lauded the cranky charisma of the performers. Critics didn't like Event Horizon when it came out in 1997, but like so many of Neill's starring vehicles, this Paul W.S. Anderson-directed sci-fi horror flick has undergone some re-evaluation. Fans are still clamoring for a director's cut, given that the theatrical release was rushed through post-production. Set in 2047, Event Horizon stars Neill as Dr. William Weir, designer of the title spacecraft, which mysteriously disappeared and reappeared through a black hole. Weir and the crew of a rescue vessel explore the